Me is my colleague from New York who has been working on this issue for some time. He has a project and a program that he's proposing, one that caught my attention. I've asked him to come and join us, and being from the state of New York, we're talking about something that's very, very real for you. Please, tell us what this is all about.
I want to thank my colleague from and for his leadership on the infrastructure issue. I think the problem that we see here in Washington is that the discussion is focused on the wrong thing. When you have a recession, an economic contraction, what your objective needs to be in terms of public policy is growth in the economy. And what we're experiencing now is anemic growth. For example, our growth rate is at about 2% or less. That current rate of growth is not enough to sustain the current level of employment. So in other words, if we don't grow this economy, our unemployment rate will necessarily go up. We talk about debt and deficit in this chamber, but if we remember less than 12 years ago, we had a budgetary surplus of $258 billion, meaning that we were taking in $258 billion more in each year than we are spending. How is that possible? It was made possible by having created 22 million private sector jobs in the previous 8 years. What was the policy then? The policy was to invest in the American economy, to invest in the American people, in education, scientific research, and infrastructure. So I think the lessons from our most recent past are very instructive today as to what we should be doing in Washington to promote growth. The gentleman from California spoke of a plan that I was working on, and that's a $1.2 trillion investment in rebuilding the roads and bridges of America. That plan, advanced by the New America Foundation, would create 27 million private sector jobs in 5 years. The first year alone, over 5 jobs, which would reduce the current unemployment rate from where it is today to 6.4%, and in the second year, 5.2%. Now, public infrastructure, as we know, is a public responsibility. It's never a question as to whether or not we are going to rebuild our roads and bridges. The question is, when does it make most sense to undertake that responsibility? And I would submit to you that the time to do it is now. Money is cheaper than it's ever going to be. Equipment is cheaper because it's idling, and labor is cheap because of the high unemployment rate. We need to do nation building right here at home. And when you consider, we just spent as a nation $89 billion rebuilding the roads and bridges of Afghanistan. We just spent $67 billion rebuilding the roads and bridges of Iraq, nations of 30 million and 26 million respectively. And for this nation, for America, a population of over 300 million people, when the American Society of Civil Engineers puts the quality of our infrastructure at a D, when the World Economic Forum rates us 24th in overall quality, when in 2001 we were number 2, we're going to spend less than $53 billion. That's not only weak, it's pathetically weak.
Mr. Higgins, thank you so very, very much for bringing this issue in a very stark terms to our attention. Now, you caught my attention earlier when we were talking about this, but here on the floor, this is a $1.2 trillion program that could create 27 million jobs in the next 5 years. And those are economic analysis that's been done by the New American Foundation.
It has.
Now, and how do we pay for it?
Well, you pay for it as you pay for transportation improvements at the local, state, and federal level. You issue debt to finance the life of the project.
It's the same way we build and own our homes.
Pretty
we
much
borrow the money to build that personal infrastructure, our home.
That's right.
Now, the borrowing rate for the federal government on a 10-year note is a little over 1%, or hovering around 1% now?
A little over 1% for a 5-year Treasury note. It's 1/2 of 1%.
That's virtually free money.
It's virtually free
Now,
money.
it does run up the debt, but we are using that money to create infrastructure, a necessary investment for the economy to grow and to protect ourselves.
That's right. And according to Transportation for America, there are 69,000 structurally deficient bridges in the United States. There are over 2,000 structurally deficient bridges in New York State. There are 99 structurally deficient bridges in my community of Western New York. Every second of every day, 7 cars drive on a bridge in this nation that's structurally deficient.
Well, we saw what collapse can do in the Minnesota-Wisconsin bridge.
Yep.
And the loss of life. We saw what inadequate infrastructure protecting New Jersey and New York can do with extraordinary loss of public investment as well as private investment and lives.